Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our free workshop on innovating ESG with maximum ROI. My name is Isma, and I'll be your host for today's session. Before we begin, I like to do a quick audio check to ensure everyone can hear me clearly. If you can hear me, my voice, please type yes in the chat box. Is there any response so far? Okay, great. I see some yes responses coming in. Thank you for confirming. If let's say you are having trouble with the audio, please check your device settings or let us know in the chat so that we can assist you. Okay. Once again, welcome everyone. We are thrilled to have you join us for this exciting workshop on innovating ESG with maximum ROI. Before we dive into the content, I have a few housekeeping notes to share. That's the basically. The first one is please keep your microphones muted during the presentation to avoid any background noises. And number two, if you have any questions during the workshop, feel free to type them in the chat box. We will have a Q&A session at the end where our speakers will address all your questions. Okay, before we continue, I would like to take a moment to introduce you to Cyberport Academy, the esteemed academy behind today's workshop. Cyberport Academy is a business unit of MSC Cyberport Sdn Bhd. At Cyberport Academy, we offer a wide range of programs and workshops that cater to various aspects of technology and corporate growth, including AI and machine learning, cybersecurity, data science, digital marketing, and leadership. Okay, guys, without further ado, it is my honor to introduce our speaker for today. Before that, a bit summary of him. He is mobilizing people to live and work sustainability. He is also developing networks and collaboration for the sustainable built environment. And this is the most interesting. He is making money from healing the planet rather than from destroying it. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our speaker for today, Mr. Matthias Gelber. Over to you, Mr. Matthias.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Sikit-sikit, lama-lama jadi bukit. That has become my philosophy when I lived in Malaysia with regards to sustainability, ESG, and making things happen. Can you all hear me okay? I'll do the audio test as well. Maybe thumbs up will be a good sign. Excellent, Dr. Esther. Thank you. And great to see you all. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Excellent to be back again with Cyberport Academy. Nice to see you all this morning. I think we've got people from many different backgrounds. I see 39 in total. That's great. Excellent. It would be good to get to know some of you as we move along. As mentioned, you can share your questions in the chat box. I might address some of them as we go along. I'm fairly easygoing. I am flexible, hopefully interactive as well. So you can always chip in. It would be interesting as well to get to know, some of your expectations for today. Maybe if a couple of you could type into the chat box what you would love to learn today, then I can try and address that in my content as well. We've got, close to 2 hours. We will do, significant time as well on Q&A or, addressing your issues, addressing your content. So that's always important for me to really make sure that we cover the issues that you are interested in. So feel free to comment in the chat box what you expect from today, what you would love to learn. One of the comments I get is my sound is not so clear. Let me try with a headphone here, a headset. I'll plug that in. Maybe then we'll get better sound. Sound better now? Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Thumbs up from Dr. Esther. That's great. By the way, it's always nice to see some faces. So at the moment, I only see Dr. Esther, which is already nice. But if I can see more of you, that's always good. We have got questions coming in. How to engage activities, Julin, thank you for as well being present with your smile. Would love to know how to engage activities with suppliers. Yes, supply chain is a critical ESG risk, but at the same time, a huge ESG opportunity. The easiest way how to get suppliers really engaged is give them a business opportunity. If you give them a business opportunity, they'll be very, very keen to take action. If you just force them to comply with some standards, they will do it, but they will do it, for the reason that they know they have to comply. A compliance mindset is usually always, okay, let's do the least necessary to comply. Because the perception is there, it's going to cost us money to comply. Whereas if you give people a business opportunity, then people are motivated by more profit at the end of the day as a driver. If they can make more sales or more profit with you, because you're telling them, okay, guys, if you help me to decarbonize our operation, decarbonization, reducing your carbon footprint, is one of the key aspects of ESG and an opportunity where you can make a lot of money because your fuel, which is the main contributor to scope 1 carbon footprint, costs you a lot of money. Your diesel, your petrol in your vehicles, prices have gone up. Your scope 2 is electricity. We'll go more into that in detail, just to give you guys some ideas. Here, why is ESG so important with respect to climate change? ESG covers a lot of different topics. Climate change is one of the many topics of ESG. Some people behave as if climate change is the only ESG topic. That is, not accurate. When you look at ESG, you look at things holistically from a social, environmental, and governance perspective. Governance is usually covered already well because the ESG compliance criteria that governments or stock exchanges or investors have been pushing have been pushed to listed companies. So listed companies already, by the regulations for listing at a stock exchange, have to do a lot of governance things in place. So climate change is a key issue because we put a lot of emphasis on it. There's a lot of focus on it. There's a lot of country-specific action on climate change. That is why it's usually a so-called material ESG issue. You know, a lot of you will have done ISO management systems. That's what I started with 30 years ago, ISO 14001. I was helping companies to implement it. I was a member of the ISO technical committee. And there you identify your significant environmental aspects based on the impacts. You do the same with quality, with health and safety. You prioritize. When we talk ESG language, it's called your material ESG issues. So you're supposed to be identifying them. In the past, listed companies were only interested in one issue: making money and maximizing shareholder returns. Most of the board, the chairman, the MD are people that have shares themselves or might have an incentive package. Their main goal is to maximize shareholder return. Now we talk about double materiality. Beside just focusing on maximizing profitability and money, how can we take into consideration the needs of the environment, the planet, Mother Earth, and people? And this is expressed in the form of stakeholders. We're not just looking at shareholders only, we're looking at stakeholders. And you need to consider the views of these stakeholders to determine what are your key issues that you should focus on, your so-called material issues. And there's a very high likelihood that we will actually have those issues prioritized. Somebody is saying, are you sharing your screen? Are you asking whether I'm going to share some PowerPoint slides? Or yes, I am, but I'm just starting off warming you guys up with some ideas. My slides will come, don't worry. I sometimes feel people focus too much on PowerPoint slides. You know, I often do talks without any PowerPoint slides at all. The most important thing today is for you guys to get the big picture. You know, a lot of people are just focused on, oh, give me the standard, give me the checklist. And you don't see the big picture. You don't see the wood, or you don't see the trees. You know, if we do ESG just focused on standards, compliance, checklist, we will not deliver maximum return. I can tell you that now. If you are just doing ESG to comply, it's going to be an expense to your business. Yes, it will keep you on the supply chain list. It will tick the box with Bursa. It will tick the box with maybe your bank that is asking you for something. But the money is in the understanding of where you can maximize ESG opportunities in terms of operational efficiency, employee motivation, retention, and productivity, and a range of other things that you will only discover and that you will only be able to make happen if you see the big picture. If you only see the narrow picture, then you're going to miss out on those ROI opportunities. ESG is a new field. Overnight, we have thousands of new ESG experts. Okay, no problem. We all need to get a piece of the pie. And everybody is coming from their own angle of what we already know. I'm the green man. And by the way, sorry, I have to disappoint you. I saw on the picture there was a lovely looking lady on there. but the reality is you get a botak guy giving you the training today. But Okela, I'm the green man. I come more from the environmental angle. That's what I've always been doing. That's what I love doing. Climate change, decarbonization, plant the trees. I started Eco Warriors Malaysia. I don't know whether any one of you was involved in those days, but I sometimes get surprised when I come back to Malaysia and people tell me, hey, I used to plant trees with you 15 years ago in the Raja Musa peat swamp forest. Sorry, I can't always remember everyone. So I come from an environmental angle. I am an expert on decarbonization, energy efficiency, sustainability, biomass turned into carbon sink, carbon credits. Those are the things I love. But I'm passionate as well about the people part, the social part, diversity, equity, and inclusion, employee wellness, health and safety, data security, data protection. Those are all things that are part of the ESG agenda. And if you're coming from an environmental agenda or you're an accountant, you need to widen your horizon because ESG is a much bigger picture. And this is why it's very important for us to look at the big picture, to see more. You know, yes, and I will, carbon credits. We will have a little talk about that. ESG reporting, fixed method. I will not talk much about ESG reporting today. Why? Because there are 100 courses on ESG reporting. There are loads and loads of people doing ESG reporting training. I'm not focused on that. There are softwares, there are data systems, there are guidelines, there are 101 systems out there that help you with ESG reporting. And this is the compliance part. But the data that you're collecting for your ESG reporting, how can this be relevant to middle managers within your organization to help them increase efficiency, save operational cost, get employees more motivated, and achieve their KPIs in an even more efficient way? How are you using all of that data? If you are just chasing people for data and other departments, other middle managers do not understand why you are doing all of this, then you are having a very tough time because people see this as a compliance exercise. They are not keen to spend loads of time giving you all of this data. Some people might even be protective of their data. They might not want you to get their data because they see their data as their area of control and expertise. So you need to look at data as power to make decisions on how to best improve efficiency of your business. The data can be a super tool for management to become more efficient. You know, just a simple example. If you have your own vehicle fleet and you don't have the data to identify how much does this truck consume per 100 kilometers of delivery, based on the weight, based on the distance, how much time is this truck idling in traffic, running? How come this truck has been idling for 2 hours in a certain location, burning loads of petrol, but not moving? Do you have that information? Do you have that data? Do you have IoT devices that give you a clear overview of what is happening with your vehicles? If you don't have that data, then you're not managing your vehicle fleet efficiently. That data can be very powerful
to help you reduce your carbon footprint of transportation, or if you are a logistics company, you can use that as your main sales argument to get new business from your customers. Can you deliver net zero logistics? Can you work with your customer to optimize their logistic delivery, travel routes, efficiency of vehicles, drivers, long-term transition to electric vehicles as a way of decarbonizing? Make a roadmap with your customer. That's where the business opportunity is. Not in you chasing people internally. Hey, give me the data, give me the data. I don't have data because I don't have the devices to track the data. There's some data in an Excel spreadsheet, but I don't know where the consumption comes from. Oh yeah, I need to spend money on IoT devices. No, you don't get a budget, because how are we going to get the return from this investment? Maybe you can get those IoT devices free of charge from a company that might offer it to you, where the deal is their revenue is based on the savings that you generate. Those things are happening already. But you need to have the capability to understand the big picture. If you're just in the middle of the trenches trying to collect data from everybody left, right, and center, and you're getting pushback because people don't see why they should spend a lot of time to support you with something they don't see any return from, you need to create that big picture, that big agenda. Okay, guys, let me move into my slides, and we can cover some of those issues a little bit more into detail, some of the slides as well. All righty. Was that already useful? Some of my initial comments? You know, usually ESG training can be boring. You know, it can be hard work. Oh yeah, we have to do the report. And a lot of ESG managers or people who have recently been appointed, you take charge of this, have a very tough job. Because if that is your main role, put all the data together, you will have a lot of pushback from people. You might even have people sitting on the board that are not keen on spending any money on ESG because they don't see the return picture. But hopefully with some of the ideas today, you can get more smiley people within your organization. Get people involved. Get people to really become on board. Empower them. Value their input. This is a culture change job. This is not just a data collection and a reporting job. If you come from the accounting background, if you come from a technical engineering background, maybe you need to brush up your internal communication and your way of getting people on board. They need to become your allies. Give them something in return that they can benefit from. And you know what's in it for you. I don't know about you, but I care for my children. I care for their future. I care for the planet. This is my daughter, one of my two daughters, drinking from a copper straw with an eco-friendly drink, a fresh juice, hopefully without gula, because we know gula is not really good for our health. But at least in Malaysia and here in the Philippines, where I live now, there's too much gula in our food, not very good for our long-term health. And as I said, I don't know about you, but when I was a youngster, my dream was to save the planet, to help the plants, the trees, the animals. Some of you have to dream to help the people, the old folks, the orphans, your family, provide a better future for the family. And I think ESG, because for the first time, there has been a clear financial value being put on focusing on environmental and social issues. That value has initially been put at it from a risk perspective. Investors have said, you know, we want to check the ESG risks, material risks, to the value of the companies that we invest in terms of their share price. You know, we all know this famous Malaysian example of a highly valued rubber glove company that suddenly got the door shut in the US market, share price tumbles. That was initially the idea behind ESG investing. Screen the risks, and if you identify those risks, stay away from that investment.
ESG.
Yes, I think somebody is switched on their audio. So if you can mute yourself, that'd be great. This is me in the Kampung back in Germany. Guess who is me? The guy on the left or on the right? Or the scary looking guy standing in the back there, looking at you as well. Yeah, actually, it's the short guy with the blonde hair. That's me, my cousin, still living in the same kampung like me, still single and available, but he only speaks German. Have taken down a biodiverse carbon sequestration engine. But if you are replanting on a degraded piece of land, then you're turning that piece of land into a carbon sequestration engine. Yes, one manufacturing sector has a higher carbon footprint than any other industry, but you need to tell me which sector, because there are some manufacturing sectors that have a very, very low carbon footprint. Interesting. Okay. I might come back to that later on. Let's see. None of you has yet guessed the industrial sector that has the highest carbon footprint. What do you mean with plant-based manufacturing? Plant-based manufacturing, you need to clarify that. I don't really understand that. Plantation, if you have a biodiverse plantation, planted on a, I mean, monoculture is a different thing. Monoculture, especially, you know, if you degrade, if you destroy the land, or if you have a plantation on peatland, that's very problematic as well, because peatland is an amazing carbon sink. The CO2 has all been sequestered in the soil. All right, maybe the person who is controlling the slides can now flick through the first couple of slides and just show the kampung picture with me as a little boy, the boring, the exciting, the daughter. Yes, this is the kampung. Which guy is me? The guy on the right, the guy on the left, or the guy in the background looking so looking so not so friendly over to us? Yeah, the short guy with the blonde hair, that's me, actually. We can go to the next one. So I will just make this sign, and then you can flick to the next slide. This was when I was voted greenest person on the planet, and this was exciting. That was 2008. It was a Malaysian magazine. I was lucky to be in the magazine just next to Obama. That was when he was the president in the US. And, you know, when you come with that dream that you want to do something good for the world, and when I was a kid, my late father told me, when he asked me, son, what's your job? How you want to earn money? I told him that my job will be to save the planet. He said, son, you can't make money from hugging trees. You'll be poor all your life. And, you know, then you later on do something. You make money from healing the planet. That's why I love ESG, because ESG has lifted that on another level. You suddenly get budget if you're smart about it. You get attention because ESG matters, but make sure it's not just from the compliance perspective. That's why we need to focus on how we can make ROI. That's when people get excited. That's when people listen. And that's why I think ESG is an accelerator of your personal agenda of helping people or helping the planet. My personal agenda has always been to help the planet. We need to ride a wave. If we are riding a wave, then we have a lot more momentum. ESG is the wave for us to help people, to help the planet. That's why I love it. But there is one little secret here, especially for the guys. We can go to the next slide. The most eco-friendly way for us guys, I think, is to go Botak. Botak saves water, saves shampoo, is eco-friendly, and it saves a lot of time. I don't know why, but these were the three Botak guys that were the only male judges in 2016 for the Miss Earth Global Final. This is a beauty pageant with a cause where the women are trying to save Mother Earth, and they only choose guys with the Botak head. Not sure why, but hey, there we go, guys. Inspiration for all of you to consider this. And you're telling me you can't see my face? Maybe the organizers
Yeah.
can somehow make sure that my face is on there, that people can see me, because it would be better if they see me at least, even without the slides. So you can see me? Okay, all right, good. Botak guys, yeah, too much thinking. Maybe that's it. That's when the hair suddenly disappears. And this was the 2016. And so it doesn't work when I change the slide like this. I have to say it. Yeah, there we go. That was the 2017 Miss Earth final. And you can see here the shirt. I'm wearing the same shirt. And no, I don't have 10 of these shirts. I only have one of them. It's not the most eco-friendly material. It's polyester, but it is super eco-efficient because I've been wearing it, I guess, 700-800 times, this shirt. You put it in the washing, it comes out like, it's excellent, this shirt. It is super eco-efficient. Can you change the slide, please? The world without us, it was all green. With us, it's changed its color. Most of us now live in urban environments surrounded by concrete, and we have changed the fate of the planet, the human species. 7 billion of us, and we need more and more. So, we need to find ways to become more efficient. We need to find ways to be able to make the world less gray, less black, less concrete, and sustain the biodiversity. By the way, this is another huge topic that's becoming increasingly important. Your impact on nature. Are you nature positive as a business? What are you doing for the biodiversity? This has been in the early days of ESG not so high on the agenda, but this is becoming increasingly relevant. Malaysia has a huge amount of biodiversity. Okay, some of it has disappeared. Hopefully, the companies that you guys are working with can see nature positivity, biodiversity positivity. You are giving more back than you are taking. Your developments, your manufacturing, whatever is your core business, delivers regeneration. This is another very important buzzword now in the ESG or sustainability discussion. Are we regenerative as a business? We give back more than we take. Are we preserving and enhancing the nature around us? So these are key concepts here. And we all know when we ask who wants change, all the hands go up. Who wants to change? The hands go down. But ESG as a framework, when you implement it within your organization, like I said, get people on board, make them allies, give them a reason why the ESG data inventory and system that you are creating can help them with innovation and positive change. Don't just create some dead Excel sheets that you manually have to update all the time for the sake of getting your annual report done. Create a management decision-making system that is integrated within the other data points and data systems of your organization that can help your company to operationally improve, to strategically improve, so you get an ROI from this. If we give people good reasons why, then they will be motivated to actually change. Next slide, please. So this is very, very important. This is a very critical culture change aspect. You have seen this many times before, you know, the framework of ESG. It comes in different shapes and forms. What is part of ESG? You know, I assume the majority of you guys have seen this. Climate change, the risk associated with it, sustainability in broad terms, carbon emissions, energy efficiency, pollution, waste. Pollution going up into the atmosphere is usually as well, or it is as well, part of your scope 1 emissions. I had a client some time ago that I did a training for, the 4-day ESG innovator training that the Academy is collaborating with me on as well. And this training, when we did the training, we realized even though the manufacturing company that I was doing the training for had loads and loads of little stacks in their manufacturing plant, when you have chimneys, mini stacks, you know, there is release of emissions to the atmosphere. But they hadn't considered that as their scope 1 emissions. So this is very, very important. So any emissions that comes out. Then we have the water and land use. Land use has an impact on biodiversity. Can you retain some of the land for biodiversity? Can you recover some of the land for maximum biodiversity? Can you go back, please? I was actually doing this without wanting to change the slide. Yeah, one more back. Then we have the resource consumption, the environmental hazards, and the regulatory compliance. So water, waste, energy, fuel, emissions, biodiversity, impact on biodiversity, land use, those are all issues under environmental. Then we have the social. DEI, what does DEI stand for? Who has come across that before? DEI. What's that for? DEI. Anyone can answer that in the chat box. Diversity, equality, and inclusion. That's a new innovative way of putting it. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think equality is as well a nice word to use. Maybe some people understand it better than equity. Yes, that's broadly correct. It's all about, you know, your company not just being middle-aged bald men like me who are sitting on the board of directors and running the show. There should be diversity. And you know, it's not just to be political correct or to be woke or to have quotas. You know, usually innovation within a company doesn't come from those middle-aged men. Innovation usually comes from a different angle, a different perspective. And who are the customers of the future? The young generation. So it will be good to really have those kind of, you know, people included. Yes, Kumar, there's a comment, waste. I mean, there is pollution and waste here. Yes, you can add waste management. I mean, waste is a big issue. And, you know, some companies are now being forced to move towards zero waste certification, zero waste to landfill. This is a new trend as well now, especially if you're a customer of some of the big ICT industry players, Microsoft and others. They will be asking some of their key suppliers, because they don't want any nasty toxic chemicals that are part of their supply chain to end up in landfill sites. So this is a mega trend as well, zero waste to landfill. But instead of you just focusing on how can we get rid of our waste, look at circular economy. Again, in circular economy, there's huge opportunities. Can your waste that you're generating be avoided at source? Or can you even take back your product? I have a client in the Middle East. They are turning palm date leaves and branches. This is not the palm oil trees. This is the palm date trees. But maybe it's possible with palm oil trees as well. They don't have to pay for the raw material. The raw material is available free of charge. It normally turns into waste. They turn it into a wooden board. The board is a carbon sink. Why? Because it's based from bio-based material. That's one big tip for you guys. If you're an entrepreneur, one of the biggest mega trends that we will see over the next 10, 20 years is building materials. It will shift increasingly from conventional steel and cement to bio-based materials. If you can turn empty fruit bunch waste from the palm oil trees, palm oil sector, Malaysia has got unlimited amount of that, or the palm oil trunks. In Malaysia, every year, 8 million of these palm oil trunks get cut. What happens with them? Usually they only get sliced and then they get left to rot. Some people say it contributes to the fertilization of the land, but you know, I have heard other theories that it doesn't really do much, because you only get potassium apparently from it, and the other fertilization minerals that you need don't come from it. You know, this is very sugary material. So this client in Dubai, they turn it into wooden boards, the branches and the leaves of the date palm trees. They have a beautiful product. It's a carbon sink. Their sequestered CO2 from the biomass in the end product is higher than the carbon footprint of the manufacturing. So normally building materials have this carbon footprint. Here is net zero. They are below net zero. That's an amazing story. They will reduce the carbon footprint of a building. It's the same with wood, but you need to source the wood from a sustainable plantation, not by chopping down the rainforest. So these are some of the mega trends. And if they implement a circular model where they can take back the boards from exhibition booths and reuse it, repurpose it, they were reluctant to do it because they said, oh, it will compete with our new boards. Guys, it's just a question of the business model. If you are making the same amount of margin or a higher margin from the returned boards that you are repurposing, then what's the problem? You have the same factory, you can even increase your sales massively. So we need to think about new innovative business models. Waste is a big one. We have the social part, the training, the labor standards, the pay equity, the human rights, health and safety. Health and safety is increasingly shifting to employee wellness as a key focal area. Data protection is huge. Community. But instead of, you know, just giving donations to the community, can you actually channel some of your procurement budget to the local community? Can you buy products and services from the local community? As an example, one of my clients here in the Philippines, they are a BPO outsourcing company. They wanted to change their food catering to have a double ESG benefit. One ESG benefit was, let's have more healthy food, because we don't want our employees to live an unhealthy lifestyle. We want them to have healthy food. Because before, the food was mainly rice, meat, and loads of oil and loads of gula. Not very good for the employees. So let's make the food more healthy with fruits and vegetables. And then secondly, the other issue they were looking at was, at the moment, their caterer was coming from 20 kilometers, other side of town, contributing to a high carbon footprint of delivery and contributing to traffic jam in Metro Manila. So what they actually did was they changed the caterer to a local caterer that delivered more healthy food, massively reducing the carbon footprint of their delivery and contributing to the local community around their facility with supporting startup companies, women-led startup companies, a catering company, with channeling their procurement budget to local suppliers. This is ESG, your core business. How can you help the local community with your core business? Then when we look at governance, we have the board diversity and structure, the executive pay. Elon Musk is a good example of someone that hasn't really 100% understood ESG. He was complaining, why do I have such a bad ESG score? I mean, latest since he took over Twitter, we know the way he treats his employees is not necessarily ESG compliant. Including on the governance part, his executive pay is maybe a little bit over the top. But then on the other hand, you have to give him fair play recognition for the fact that he has been pulling off some major, businesses with incredible results. And I'm, for example, using Starlink on the top of my roof here today. So that wouldn't be here if it wouldn't be for him. But, he hasn't properly grasped that ESG is a holistic framework for all these diverse issues, not just about how you decarbonize the transportation sector. He thought he would get a very, very high ESG score. He was complaining that other industries out of not such, eco-friendly sectors have a better ESG score than him. Yeah, because they have started to look at it from a holistic perspective. It's not just about one or two single environmental issues that can give you a great ESG score. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Most of you guys are already very familiar with the core ESG issues. You've already started working on these. You've already started tackling these in your organizational activities and framework. But what does it mean in practice? How can we bring this all together? How can we make this make sense? Next slide, please. Yeah. Here is as well another angle of looking at sustainability, ESG, and management from, when we look at this concept of responsible business. ESG wants to shift us towards responsible business. But what are the stages, the maturity stages? A lot of companies start with the denier stage. Oh yeah, this is not relevant for us. We are the good guys. We are already giving some money back to local charities, and we don't damage the environment. So this is the denier. Then the next stage comes complier. A lot of companies who are doing ESG are in the compliance phase. They are doing the necessary thing to knock a sustainability report together to comply with Bursa requirements. Or they comply with their customers' supply chain requirements. And yes, sure, sustainable business is as well about animals because it's about biodiversity. It's about how you are giving back to nature. If you are completely neglecting animals, that is an area that should be a key aspect of biodiversity and nature. But whether biodiversity and nature is a key material ESG issue, sustainability issue for your business might depend on what kind of business you do. If you are just a small, data outsourcing office in an office building where you are not doing land development, you're not a plantation company, you're not a manufacturing company, then your impact on biodiversity is not huge. If you're a bank, however, on the other side, as a bank, even though you're sitting in an office, you are financing plantation companies. You are financing manufacturing companies. We have already, for banks, this concept of financed emissions. And you might have seen that CIMB, for example, and I think Maybank has moved as well, or is making move in this direction, has already issued a letter for the so-called hard-to-abate industrial sectors, plantation industry, oil and gas, palm oil, cement, and other manufacturing. You are here now to be in line, to be Paris Agreement compliant. We need you to achieve and target this emission intensity by 2030. Same way, banks should focus on the biodiversity impact of the projects that they are financing. They are focusing on the emission impact because there have been, with SBTI, Science-Based Targets Initiative, TCFD, Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosure. There's been a lot of emphasis at board level for listed companies, including banks, on their net zero roadmap. And for banks, the biggest impact is their financed emissions, their indirect emissions, not their direct emissions. Their direct emissions are a small fraction of the impact that their lending has on the carbon footprint of other industries. So coming back to this maturity stage concept, we have the complier. Okay, we do all of this because we have to do it. Time horizon is short term. Focus is just on shareholder value. Inside out, you're not really taking into consideration a wide views of stakeholders. You're just focusing on your own needs. Maybe there are still some people on the board who say, oh, this is not so important. We just need to do the bare minimum to get away. And they might have a vague net zero target. Yeah, we're going to be net zero by 2050, but there's no operational roadmap, no short-term targets, no SBTI, Science-Based Targets Initiative, no roadmap. Then, it's just a commitment there, but there is no clarity on what you're going to do here and now to underpin that commitment. Your transparency as little as possible. You're not going to share a lot to the public. You're just going to keep it all close to your chest. Okay, you're now forced to do a sustainability report. You're going to report, but you're going to do the minimum reporting to comply. You can see that in the reports, what approach people have. Your collaboration, it's kind of, very limited. You're not collaborating strategically. If you really want to decarbonize, if you really want to achieve massive reduction of your carbon footprint, you need to work with your suppliers. You need to work with your partners. You need to engage with your facilities management department effectively. You might need to engage with external contractors, get them in. What are the options we have to reduce our energy consumption by changing the chiller, by changing the motors? Changing the motors is actually easy. It can be done overnight. Changing the chiller is difficult. You might need 2 or 3 weeks to complete a project like that. That means you need to shut down your factory or your building. But changing the motors, you can do that 2 hours at night without disrupting your business. And motors are often 40–50% of the energy consumption of your whole building or your factory. There are some amazing Malaysian case studies as well with fast ROI on changing the motors. So, and the business model of those people that are just complying or denying is take, make, waste, and dump. It's a linear business model. There's no circularity. So we want people to move to the next stage. ESG started as risk mitigation. Now it's moving towards opportunity maximization. That's what you are. That's what maybe attracted you today. How can we get maximum ROI? We need to change our way of looking at things. Our time horizon needs to shift from short-term to long-term. We need to shift our focus from just shareholder value to current and future shareholder value and other stakeholders. From inside out, we need to shift to outside in. What does the world want from us? Where are our future customers? We cannot just rely on the middle-aged Botak men as our customers. We need to shift to a more diverse angle. And from a transparency perspective, okay, I don't expect all of us to go naked immediately, but we need to become more open. We need to be willing to share as well work in progress. We are not perfect yet. I mean, I think a great example is, for example, Petronas. Petronas has made very aggressive commitments on net zero, but has said scope 3, we cannot yet set very detailed targets because the scope 3 data inventory, and it's mainly our customers using our end product, that is the scope 3. They have said, hey, we are not yet ready to map it all out. We cannot really, you know, I think that is very reasonable. This is work in progress. We have to work on it in an iterative way. And sometimes it's a collaboration with government, customers, and the company themselves. So, you know, we can't give you all the answers now. We are not yet fully naked. We don't have all the data, but we are working on it. We don't need to be perfect. I'm the green man. I was voted greenest person on the planet. I'm not perfect. My carbon footprint has gone up. While I was in Malaysia, I didn't have a car. Now I'm a family man, 3 children. I needed to buy a car. Okay, you have to make compromises on your carbon footprint. My carbon footprint has gone up. When I lived in Mount Kiara, my landlady was calling me up. Hey, green man, what's wrong with you? Are you never at home? The British guy who used to live in the condo before, his electricity bill was 500 to 600 ringgit. Are you never at home? My first bill was 28. My second bill was 30 ringgit. She was like, huh? She was assuming I was never at home. No, I did 2 things. I didn't switch on the aircon, which a British guy was running all the time. I used the fan instead. And I switched off the pump. You know, that was a nice condo in Mount Kiara. My landlady had installed a very powerful water pump. First time I used the bidet, I was like, ouch, wow. The water pressure here is like, wow, very high. So, you know, you put on the shower, the water pressure was gigantic. I listened to the sound of the pump. Okay, there's a small utility room here. I went into it. I switched off the pump. I never switched it on again because for me, the water pressure was good enough without the use of the pump. And pumps consume a lot of electricity. You know, in your building that you are sitting currently in your office, where's the fresh air coming from? Chilled water. All the liquid, the water that is moving to the 15th, 20th floor. There are pumps in the building that pump up that water. What about if you have a centralized system, your fresh air coming in, your exhaust air going out? Those are air handling units running in the background. They have blowers. What is driving these blowers? It's loads of motors. Maybe you've never investigated that, but have a look in the utility room. Talk to facilities management. Ask them to show you all the motors and the blowers that you have in the building. That's where most of the power consumption is coming from. So, you know, these things are all there. We might not see them. We might not take them into consideration. Even from a relationship perspective, ESG, sustainability, responsible business is shifting us from short-term transactional. I buy from you, next month I buy from Joe Bloggs because he is 0.2% cheaper than you. I only get the cheapest deal. When we shift to responsible business, we are shifting to long-term strategic relationships. I want a supplier for my logistics that helps me to decarbonize step by step. I want a data center that provides me with a service that is moving towards net zero data storage. You might have read the news, data centers, AI processing is pushing up the carbon footprint of the ICT sector. How can we handle that? Microsoft and others, you will see later on the net zero roadmap, have very aggressive targets. That's where some of the carbon credits that one of you was asking for is coming into. We'll tackle that in a minute. So we are really looking at long-term strategic partnerships, and there is a huge business opportunity. If you are a supplier of a product or a service, you can, by waking up and fine-tuning your product or your service to the needs of the listed companies and their ESG goals, you can go in there and actually promote your product or service as the solution that will help your customers' ESG targets. And you know, the good news is the reports are there. They are public. You can read in TNB's report, in Petronas' report, what are their ESG targets? It reminds me of a discussion I had 20 years ago in a workshop with suppliers in the Philippines. I had a t-shirt supplier. I asked a t-shirt supplier, do you have any eco-friendly t-shirts? No, I don't have. They're too expensive. Okay. They're more expensive than your current t-shirts. What t-shirts are you selling? Oh, I sell the cheap t-shirts. What's your margin? Oh, my margin is so small, I hardly survive. If you're competing with everybody else on a commodity solution that has no specific value to add, you are usually with a very, very tight margin. You have to sell a lot to barely survive. I challenged that t-shirt supplier. Check out some of your customers who are doing tree planting, who are doing sustainability events, and offer them a different value proposition. I can sell you an organic cotton t-shirt. I can sell you a t-shirt made from recycled plastic bottles. Yes, it's going to cost you 50% more, but your employees will come home and tell their family, their kids, hey, look here, I've got a t-shirt here made from plastic bottles. Isn't that amazing? I was wearing those t-shirts 20 years ago when I came to Malaysia. They were there already. Those solutions exist. Okay, we have to be careful when we have recycled plastic and put it on our body, microplastic, microfiber, you know, it's sometimes complex. But what I'm saying here is, if you fine-tune your product or your service to what the big companies want, there are business opportunities. You can be ahead of your competition. This is what ESG innovation is about with maximum return. Understanding the trends in the marketplace and implementing those trends in your product or service innovation. And then building on this shift that the relationships, when we look at sustainability, are moving from short-term transactional to long-term relationships. Make a deal with TNB or Petronas for the next 10 years to be their preferred supplier for logistics, data storage, indoor air quality, facilities management. With some of those energy efficiency solutions, facility management companies can come in and offer customers zero money down with fast ROI. My friends in Malaysia who have these super eco-efficient magnetic levitation motors, they did a project with one of the ministries, and they basically offered the ministry, hey, we'll retrofit 12 buildings, no money down, you just give us the savings for the next 30 months, and all these motors are yours. The ministry said, great, that's excellent. And they promised them 45% savings, but they actually achieved 58% savings across more than 500 motors that they installed. So the ministry was even more happy because the ministry was making cash from the extra savings that went above and beyond the guaranteed savings. They only had to pay back the guaranteed savings to finance the project. So nobody had to actually spend any money. And the project was financed from a bank who gave reduced interest rates because banks are desperate to increase their financing for carbon reduction projects. Everything is coming together. If we see the big picture, we can use this for our business success, for maximum ROI. So please go to the next slide. We will pick up the pace now. And that shift is very, very critical. Yeah, most people are there in the middle now. Digital innovation, digitalization, gigantic business opportunities for startup companies as well to come up with new solutions. We have the environmental data, we have the social data and information, we have the governance information. You know, how can we bring that all together? How can we use artificial intelligence as well and digitalize solutions to help us manage the complexity of the data? This is very, very important. This is a gigantic business opportunity. And, you know, I see that in Malaysia, in the Philippines, in the region, we can do a lot more. Most of the big startup players where billions of euro and US dollars have been poured into are currently coming from the US or Europe. But this is a gigantic new business opportunity where we need new solutions, new ICT solutions. Actually, digitalization will be the roadmap to make us more efficient. You know, in the future, in 5 years' time, large companies will look at their scope-free carbon emissions and they will go into a database and they will see different suppliers with different metrics. Red, these guys are high carbon footprint logistics. These guys are high carbon footprint food suppliers. Unhealthy food suppliers, out. So increasingly procurement dollars will be based on digitalized information that has environmental and social impact information as it relates to your company, the buyer. So this digitalization is very, very gigantic opportunity. You might make money from that. I'm a shareholder in a company in the Philippines that is focusing on improving indoor air quality for businesses. Why? Because since COVID, we know your indoor air quality, if it's bad, is an infection risk. But if you flip it around on the positive side, you can improve the productivity of your employees. You can reduce the sick leave by optimizing your indoor air quality. That's a huge ROI if you do it in the right way. So these things are all big opportunities. They are all digital innovation opportunities. They are all money-making opportunities. Next slide, please. They are things that you can do internally, or they are things that you can do as a new startup, or they are things that you can do even within a large organization. Your digital innovation might come from your own IT department. Start with where the information is already. You know, if you start with a sustainability report data collection, what about your enterprise resource management system? If you have something in place already, you should start with that. Get the accountant on board. Hey, my dear accountant, I know you are the guru on all the data and information in the company. Pat them on the back. I need your help. Hey, I want you to help me with all the data collection. But how can this be a project that helps you at the same time? build people in with that idea there's something in it for them. Next slide, please. This is really the game as well. Now, when we look at ESG and CSR, maybe you guys can comment in the chat box. What's the main difference between ESG and CSR? Yes, we will provide the slides, don't worry. What is the main difference between ESG and CSR? Closely linked? Yes, Krishnan, there is a close link. What's the link? I mean, some people have, basically, CSR is a fancier name. Yeah, people in the past have been promoting their CSR. Yeah, ESG is a heavier responsibility. You're right. CSR has, been used a lot for marketing and branding. And, we are giving back to society. This is good. This is great. We need to continue CSR. But, when times got tough, like 2008 financial crisis, what was the first budget that got cut? Usually the CSR budget. CSR is often an add-on, giving something back to society. ESG is your core business. When I moved to Malaysia, I lived in a condo and I was a bit confused. How come that the company that owns this condo is very famous for CSR, but they don't treat their customers very well? There seemed to be a disconnect here. It's not good. You screw your customers, you don't pay your suppliers on time. It's not good for your business. ESG is about core business. How can you minimize risks to your core business? And how can you maximize positive social impacts and environmental impacts? So yes, ESG, clear targets. CSR might just be, a side part. And ESG is all about clear core business accountability. What is your core business and how can you actually run it? So maybe the next slide, I have a little bit more thoughts on the topic, corporate sustainability reporting. I think there's a good coexistence here. We don't want to kill off CSR. It's needed. It's important. ESG is core business focused. CSR is usually externally focused. ESG is continuous. CSR can be a one-off. ESG is a bit more holistic than CSR. So you cannot not look at your core social and environmental impacts by doing ESG. You have to look at your core business. And there's more traction in your core business if you optimize it from an ESG perspective. You can do a lot of good. Doing CSR, you might, destroy the biodiverse rainforest or the local aquifer or the water quality or the air quality, but you're seen as a CSR donator. No, that doesn't work with ESG anymore. Next slide. It's all about core business. It's about the integration into the core business. That is a very key issue. It aligns as well with UN Sustainable Development Goals. We have economy, society, and the environment. You have the linkage here. Most large companies report as well on the UN Sustainable Development Goals. What is the goal of the UN Sustainable Development Goals? To deliver healing to the planet. We want to eliminate poverty. We want to give good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, zero hunger, a clean water, climate action, happy life above and below water, the land, the biodiversity, healthy city, alternative energy. This is all about healing the planet, healing communities. That's why I'm a big supporter of it. It goes back to our childhood dream, making the world a better place. Isn't it more meaningful and more motivating if you can be part of making the world a better place? if you do ESG right, it will massively boost employee motivation and retention. If you treat ESG just as a compliance exercise, you will have people annoyed that you are chasing them for the data for the report. You need to get the big picture right, the angle. You need to get your board on board. This is not just compliance. This is long-term strategic opportunity for the business. This can lead to growth. This can lead to business success. You need to include your stakeholder through consultation, through involvement, through what matters to our stakeholders. Yeah, someone has got their microphone switched on. Can you please switch it off? Next slide, please.
Sorry, I'm having a meeting now.
This is one of the reasons why Yo Mei Mei, can you please? Okay, thank you. This is one of the reasons why people are being confused or saying, wow, there's an ESG data soup. There are so many different standards, so many different rating frameworks, so many different guidelines. You know, you can go on the internet and type in, you know, Sustainalytics, MSCI, ESG rating scores, and you can type in some of the listed Malaysian companies and you will get their public ESG rating scores. Very interesting. You can gather information about your client, identify their ESG metrics. A lot of this information is in the public domain. And it's one of the reasons why companies have really sharpened up their ESG game, because it has an impact on their investors. It has an impact on their reputation. And it's good that Malaysia is actually very proactive. Bursa Malaysia is doing a great job in promoting this, pushing it, and as well providing capacity and capability. But generally, most of the training and capability out there is on the ESG disclosure, on the reporting. That's why our training is focused on innovation and ROI. Where are the opportunities if you see at the big picture? That will boost the ability of you to make it happen within your organization. It will as well boost you to get budget to actually implement things. If you just do compliance, then people might come up with nice words, nice targets. But once you ask for budget, oh, no, we don't want to spend more on this. Already doing this sustainability report has cost us so much money. We will only invest more if we get more pressure. So only if you can identify the roadmap to returns, you will really get the big support on the big budget. So next slide, please. Next slide. We'll skip over some of the slides. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. You know, classically, when I first gave a talk in Southeast Asia, it was in Indonesia, 1996. I had the Indonesian Confederation of Indonesian Industry. I was still a young guy. They said to me, hey, we don't need to worry about environmental management and waste management in Indonesia because we can get rid of our waste free of charge. You in Germany have to pay for getting rid of the waste, but here, don't worry. I said, are you sure? If you have a lot of waste, that means you pay for raw material, you pay for labor, you pay for electricity, you pay for manufacturing to manufacture the waste. That's going to cost you a lot of money, man. Same in the UK. One of my first clients, a small company that was doing harnesses for the automotive industry. I went to the back of their factory. I saw huge containers full of plastic coating for the harnesses. I said, why you have so much waste? Oh, yeah, we do just-in-time delivery. Every time a new customer orders a different color, we have to run the new color through the machines until we have the pure new color. Their just-in-time was costing them a huge amount of money. Actually, they never had done that calculation. I said to them, let's do the calculation. We did the calculation. We realized 40% of their raw material ended up in the waste pits. Incredible. They were super inefficient. So they changed from 100% just in time to working with customers on more advanced orders, on more advanced storage and planning, so they were not wasting so much raw material. Less waste is more profit. This is a basic philosophy. For every ton of waste we generate, 71 tons of industrial waste are generated before the product gets to us. Just imagine this. We, the consumer, have a role to play here, and as well, the manufacturing industry has a gigantic opportunity to actually reduce this. This was a hotel in Manila. I counted the light bulbs. How do you know whether a light bulb is incandescent or not? Touch it. If it's hot, it means most of the electricity is converted into heat. These guys were wasting a huge amount of money in actually having incandescent light bulbs. I did the calculation. They were wasting about 16,000 kilograms of CO2. I calculated the ROI of changing this to LED lights was only 2.5 months. And you could save a huge amount of CO2 emissions. So a lot of the decarbonization projects initially can deliver a very fast ROI. Here is an example, disruptive innovation, the electric vehicles. By 2018, Bloomberg was predicting 55% of new car sales and 33% of the global fleet will be electric by 2040. Actually, it's moving much faster than that. This is a disruptive innovation that if you are trying to cling on to the petroleum-based vehicle, sooner or later you will be out of business. I think it was 2003, 20 years ago, I was a speaker at the German-US automotive government and industry consultation on how can we make cars more clean. At that time, the German companies were holding back. They were saying BMW, it was hosted by BMW. BMW said, we have done LPG, the consumer didn't go for it. Then the Japanese car makers came with a hybrid. Hybrid was disruptive innovation. It made Toyota and Honda a lot of money. Now we have Tesla, BYD on the electric vehicles. Either you play the game or you are out. Malaysia could have potentially been a big player. I think it was 2009, 2010. I was on a panel in the exhibition center in WTC, the exhibition center next to the AMNO building. I was on the panel with the then CEO of Proton. The then Tan Sri Peter Chin was the Quetta Green Tech Minister. He officiated, cut the ribbon for Malaysia's first electric vehicle. I'm still puzzled until today. Why wasn't that scaled up? Malaysia was one of the first countries that came up with a prototype for electric vehicle. So sometimes great ideas, we need to pull them through, even though the initial phases are tough. If that would have been pulled through, Proton could be one of the market leaders together with Tesla and BYD in electric vehicles. It was exactly at the time when this industry started. So, sometimes those strategic opportunities, if we really make them happen, here's a very simple example. You change the beer bottle, you change the drinks bottle or the Heinz can of beans, just some very small changes. Here in the bottle, 17% reduction in waste, saved 5,700 tons of CO2. Then the 20% lighter can made about 400,000 pounds sterling profit. I think multiply it with 5, then you have ringgit, 2 million ringgit. Just reducing the weight of the can is your environmental improvement, and this goes directly to profits. If you have 2 million ringgit extra profits, if your profit margin is 10%, you have to sell 20 million product to make that profit margin. So just here, the reduction of 20% of the weight of the packaging made that profit contribution that 20 million ringgit turnover would have made. So sometimes these small little things can have huge results. And now the result gets revealed of my question that I asked earlier. Can you see on the left-hand side? This is basically average emission intensity per sector. Scope of one CO2 emission per $1 million of revenue. The utilities, the gas and coal-fired power plants, water utilities, the energy production. Look on the left-hand side. Cement manufacturing alone emits 5,400 tons of CO2 per 1 million of revenue. So the answer to my question earlier on, cement is the industry with the highest carbon footprint in relation to revenue, even higher than power generation from fossil fuels. And all the cement factories in the world have nearly 3 times as much CO2 emissions than all the planes in the world operating together. Just to give you an idea of the scale of this. Interesting is, CIMB has given the Malaysian cement industry a new target. Does anyone know what is the current carbon footprint of the cement industry in Malaysia roughly? And what is the new target? Lisao, you are currently unmuted, so we can hear you. Maybe you can mute yourself. Thank you very much. And anyone knows what is the current carbon footprint in average? I checked it. I checked the biggest cement manufacturing company in Malaysia is YPL. I went into their sustainability report. I think these are 2022 figures. Their average carbon footprint, if I remember it correctly, per ton of cement sold is about 670 kilogram of CO2 equivalent. So for every kilogram of cement that you are using, in average in Malaysia, you have about 670 gram of carbon dioxide. Now, CIMB gave the cement industry in Malaysia a target, and this target is actually 450, Paris aligned. If you want to be Paris aligned, you have to actually about peak, but now, and get a reduction of 45%. This is the Paris Agreement target. Here are some screenshots of my indoor air quality monitoring device. What's the problem on the left-hand side? What's the problem on the left-hand side? You can comment in the chat box. There's a problem on the left-hand side. That was 5:22 a.m. on the 31st of July 2018. I was staying in a hotel room with my family. That was when my baby daughter was 1 year old. I was carrying my indoor air quality monitoring device with me because I wanted to make sure that my baby daughter always has good air quality. In this hotel room, the air quality was not good. Why? The carbon dioxide is red. What should be the normal carbon dioxide? Outside, currently, the carbon dioxide concentration is about 430 parts per million. Inside, if it's more than 1,000, it's unhealthy. Those were the targets that governments gave during COVID. You should measure your CO2 emissions, because if it goes above 1,000, we humans, we breathe in oxygen, we breathe out CO2. Confined spaces, no fresh air, the CO2 goes up and up and up. Sometimes you have meetings in a meeting room, open plan office, the meeting room has been installed retrospectively, it doesn't get any fresh air. There's only one supply inlet from fresh air, your meeting room doesn't get it, you have a couple of people in the meeting room, the longer the meeting, the CO2 goes up. This was in a hotel room in the middle of the night. And I even found out why the CO2 was so high. I knew the facility manager. I told the facility manager what's wrong in your hotel rooms at night. He told me, don't tell anyone. That's why I'm not mentioning the name of the hotel, because that could be going into the media. He told me, we are switching off the fresh air supply at night to save electricity. Wow. You shouldn't really do that in a place where people are at night. You can do that in your office building where nobody is in there at night, but you shouldn't do that in a hotel. Your office building motors should be slowed down at night, switched off, variable speed drive. Yeah, City says, OMG. This guy told me nobody ever complained. Why did nobody ever complain? Because people don't know what's going on unless they have data and information. A lot of your environmental impacts, nature-based impacts, social impacts, you might not know, you might not understand because you don't have the data. Data is power. So don't just do your environmental report as a reporting compliance exercise. Use it to gather information, to use the power of data to optimize your employee productivity, health and wellness and performance. Guess what's wrong on the right-hand side? On the right-hand side, there is high PM 2.5. This is pollution particles in the air. During the haze in Malaysia, this was the problem, PM 2.5 and PM 10, the small particles. Okay, we say they all come from Indonesia, but some of the haze I've seen even came from Malaysia as well. So these are the small particles. Lee Sao, you're again unmuted. Can you please mute yourself? These are the small particles. Check here the date. It was the 1st of January at 12:15 a.m. Where is this small haze particles coming from? It's New Year's Eve, the firecrackers. 1 hour later, this had switched from red to normal. You can see as well the humidity is very high. It's on the outside, 90% humidity. The left side is on the inside in a hotel room. So data is power. And this data, you know, I know some Malaysian office buildings where people tell me they get sick all the time. This is because of the problem with indoor air quality. And unless we measure and control and optimize it, we don't know what's going on. This is an area where you can get huge ROI if you actually do it properly. Now, can you skip a couple of slides? I just want to show you the Microsoft roadmap for net zero to finish up with it. Go forward with a couple of slides. More. You will get all these slides so you can study some of the other stuff. I just want to show you the net zero roadmap. Okay, stop. Go one back. To the Microsoft net zero roadmap. One more back. Back, not forward, back. You have to go back. So basically, this is Microsoft. Yes, there we go. Carbon negativity by 2030. This is their roadmap. You can see the net zero carbon emissions. And what is extremely important here is they've included their suppliers. Most companies have said, okay, we are only going to do it for our own carbon footprint. They have included their suppliers. So scope 3 is included. Most of your scope 3 emissions is from your supply chain, from your customers. And it's as well people using your product in use. So you can see there the dotted black line is the net zero carbon emissions. Actually, what's happening now through AI, it's going up. But their blue line is their total emissions. It's still staying above the net line. They have in the past used carbon offsets. You see the dark green line that's going below zero is the avoided emissions and the carbon offsets. But the real name of the game now is carbon removal. removing CO2 permanently out of the atmosphere. Growing trees sequesters carbon, but it doesn't guarantee a long-term carbon removal. But turning biomass waste into biochar, this is the most sexiest carbon removal initiative at the moment. Microsoft is investing a lot of money into it. Would be perfect for Malaysia. Why? Because Malaysia has gigantic amount of unused biomass that's currently left to rot at palm oil mills. Empty fruit bunch, pomeh. Some people have used biogas capturing, which is already good, but turning biomass, waste biomass, into biochar and other products with pyrolysis is the money-making machine of the future. Just as another tip for you guys. Okay, let's shift to Q&A. We had one of the questions on the Q&A was focusing on carbon credits. Now, Bursa Malaysia has introduced the carbon trading platform. I think that's great. Now, I had one of my friends from Malaysia approach me the last 2-3 years. Hey, Green Man, we need to start a new business. Let's get a concession for a forest and make carbon credits. I told him, I love that project in theory, but in practice, currently making money from carbon credits is very tricky because there have been a lot of reports that some of the forestry related projects have overestimated carbon credits. So the credibility of, classical forestry related carbon credit projects is at a point where the price you get for those carbon credits is not very attractive to make good ROI. But when you have a carbon removal project like with biochar, you get over $100 per ton of CO2 removed. So I am recommending people go into carbon removal when you want to go into carbon credits. Don't use the conventional, because the price you will get, now you might get for a forestry related carbon credit project, maybe a price of $5 to $10. If you have carbon removal, verified carbon removal, you get more than $100 per ton. Now the question here is around Malaysia, then even cutting trees not at the area where it affects the view of drivers. Yeah, that's just a comment. This is sad as well. I've always been promoting and fighting for trees and for planting new trees, especially the project that I championed in the Raja Musa peat swamp forest. It's a peat swamp. And this is actually where most of the haze problem comes from. If we drain the peatland, it's concentrated carbon, because over the last 50, 100, 200, thousands of years, a peat swamp has accumulated biomass. In a forest where you don't have a swampy area, leaves and branches will fall down and they decompose. But in a peat swamp, the biomass gets sucked up in the moist, swampy soil and gets compacted to concentrated carbon. So a peat soil grows over time. So you might have 1 meter or 2 up to 5 meters of concentrated carbon. That is a long-term carbon storage, long-term carbon sink. Peat swamps have a huge amount of carbon sequestered in the soil. So this could still be potentially a good project. So yeah. Okay. Any other questions? We can switch back to presenter mode and stop the slide sharing. Any other questions from you guys? We have about 10 minutes left. I think we had a question earlier on carbon credits. If I've answered your question, otherwise you can repeat specifically what you wanted to answer. We had a comment here as well. The government of Bari, Italy, installed cyber trees in their cities to purify the air. I mean, this is another interesting development. I think we will have a lot of technology that people will be using in the future to purify air, outdoor, indoor, to take carbon dioxide out of the air. This is a huge new business opportunity. I am a firm believer that nature does a great job. The more we can rely on nature as well, the better. Alan is asking whether we can get the video after the workshop. That's okay with me. That depends on the organizers. No problem with me to get the video. Obviously, you will get me live for 4 days if you sign up to the Certified ESG Innovator Training. I have a lot of experience with a lot of different sectors, and the comment that I got during the last ESG Innovator Training was actually that people were amazed how many practical examples I could give them during the 4 days on what they can do within their company. I usually focus as well, we do a lot of workshops, we focus on your company. We focus on what your company can actually do and achieve. So we go into a net zero carbon roadmap, we go into social innovation, we go into digitalization. How can you internally digitalize? How can you actually capture your data? Maybe what IoT devices would be useful for you to control and manage your logistics impact, your facilities impact, your supply chain social impact, your sourcing of raw materials, and where are the business opportunities for your company. Okay, yeah, the video will be uploaded on YouTube. That's excellent. So I can watch myself on YouTube. Well, actually, my kids one day were very surprised. Hey, Daddy, I saw you on YouTube. How come you're on YouTube? Yeah, okay, guys, you will find a couple of
Hi,
videos.
Matthias.
Yeah, go ahead.
Kumar. I'm Kumar. I just want to know, just now you mentioned zero waste to landfill. Huh?
Yes.
Actually, I'm one of the technical reviewer for zero waste to landfill program for global company.
Excellent.
And so far, I never see any company in Malaysia embarking to obtaining zero waste to landfill. Everybody focus on the climate and renewable energy. Do you have any awareness how Malaysia will move on the waste?
Yes, I know Malaysian companies that are in the process of getting certified to zero waste to landfill. There are different certification programs out there. One is from the True Waste. True Waste is one of the certification programs, but it's focused on circularity. How can you do it internally? There are a couple of other certification systems on zero waste. Some Malaysian companies are working on that, mainly suppliers of IT companies, like Microsoft, for example. If they source a lot of electronical equipment from a certain it's mainly electronic manufacturers that I know that are currently working on it. So it's an iterative process. You will not be able to achieve it overnight. It's actually quite difficult to go through that period. But one solution, for example, is cement industry is using alternative fuels. There's, for example, a company in Ipoh. They collect non-recyclable wastes. They then chop it into small pieces. For example, you have clothes that cannot be recycled anymore. You have old cleaning rugs from your manufacturing facility. They will take it, they will chop it into small pieces, and then it might end up being the fuel for cement kilns to replace the coal. So, this is similar to waste to energy. Not everybody is a fan of waste incineration. You don't get much electricity from it, and you usually need to pay a lot of tipping fees to make such a facility commercially viable. But those guys in Ipoh, I think you don't even have to pay them for the waste because they turn it into a fuel. But whether your certification system or your client allows that as an option for your zero waste to landfill, some certification systems approve combustion, like waste to energy, others do not. So, you need to start off internally. How can we avoid the waste to occur in the first place? It might be, R&D as well. You need to get your R&D guys conscious on that the decisions they make when they make product development and manufacturing equipment decisions has an impact on how much waste comes out at the end of the production process. So you need to have a holistic approach where you work as well with R&D. 15 years ago, I did a project for the pharmaceutical industry. The R&D in the pharmaceutical industry is focused on getting the next new blockbuster. They classically don't care how much waste they generate. Most of our high-end pills that we use prescribed by doctors for certain high-end applications, 95 to 98% of the raw material that's gone into manufacturing that pill ends up as waste. Because R&D has not been focusing on waste minimization, they've been focusing on we need to get the next blockbuster. So changing the mindset, is very, very important to actually get that focus to shift. And as well, change your mindset of how you look at ESG. Maybe you look at ESG currently, we need to comply to zero waste. We need to comply to ESG reporting. We need to comply to social certification from our overseas customers who is buying from us and who is worried about child labor and labor condition of our workforce. Don't just look at it as a pure compliance task and chore. Look at it as an opportunity. The data that you're going to gather can help you to make improved decisions. You can use ESG as a proactive sales opportunity. Align it with the goals of your customers. It can make you a star within the organization. If you are only focused on risk management and compliance, senior management will just hope to not hear too much from you because they usually only hear from you if there's a problem. But if you are suddenly contributing to sales and opportunity and strategic project development, then senior management will get you involved in some of the board decisions because they see you as someone that can have an influence on long-term future business success. So if you are in that function of ESG, internally, or even if you're an external advisor, if you can help your client to identify money-making opportunities through ESG innovation, they will be happy to give you a much longer contract. You might be even able to increase your fees or stand out from the competition because you're adding unique strategic value. Sikit, lama jadi bukit, right? Step by step. Actually, I learned that from a Malaysian cab driver. He asked me, what do you do? What's your job? I said, I don't have a proper job. I just came to Malaysia, my second home, but I'm trying to make people go green. Malaysia go green, very difficult. No money, no talk. And then I discussed with the cab driver and I said, hey, I try to change people's mindset step by step. At that time, if I would have wanted to give a talk to some listed companies, and I told that to a Malaysian listed company last year, they were paying me a lot of money to give a board level talk to their senior board. I said, when I came to Malaysia in 2004, I would have had to pay you guys to listen to me. Now you are paying me top dollar to listen to and give you strategic advice. This is the good news about ESG. Now doing social and environmental good is board level subject. If you capture the opportunities and add value and innovation with ROI, you will become a star in the company, or you will become a star consultant or a star startups. The opportunities are unlimited. Let's shift from compliance to opportunity. Let's shift from inside to outside. What does the world out there want and need that we can deliver through ESG innovation? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthias.
Find me on LinkedIn if you have any specific questions. I'm easy to find. There's only one guy with my name there. I think we have 11:59 now. Isma, you have any final words
Yeah,
from your side?
thank you so much, Mr. Matthias, for the insightful and valuable sharing. Okay, everyone, just like what Mr. Matthias mentioned just now, I am excited to remind all of you that today's workshop served as a special preview for our comprehensive course, Certified ESG Innovator, which will be held from June 29th uh, to June 1st, 2024. Okay, so yeah,
July,
this is the
July,
course.
July.
Yeah, yeah, 26, 29th of July to uh 1st August 2024. Sorry, my mistake. Okay, the cost fee is 6,500 per pax for 4 days. Don't worry for company who registered with HRD Corp. This cost is claimable under HRD Corp SBL has. Okay, and the registration is now open. For more information and to register, you may direct scan the QR code on the screen, or you may visit our website at www.cyberport Academy, or you may scan the QR code to direct you to our social media account, which we'll be having later, and we'll be having the link as well at our chat box. You can just click on the link to direct you to our social media accounts. Okay, we look forward to welcoming you to the course and helping you to close this ESG skill gap of your management and employees. Okay, as we approach the end of our session, we kindly ask you to take a few moments to fill in our feedback form. Your feedback is incredibly valuable to us as it helps us improve our future workshop. You can find the feedback form via this QR code. We really appreciate your honest and constructive feedback. Additionally, we'll be sending out a follow-up email shortly after this session, which will include a link to the feedback form as well. So if you are unable to complete it now, you may look out for our email and share your thoughts at your earliest convenience. Okay. Oh yeah, those participants who answered our feedback form will be obtaining an e-certificate of attendance from us after the session ends, and we will be sending the certificate together with the uh, together with the slides via email. Okay, so maybe right now you may scan the QR code first and answer the feedback form, while Mighty, maybe you can check how many has answered the feedback form. Maybe Alia or Marsha or Aisha, can you guys help to check? Okay, so far we have one answered. We need more. We need more so that we can share the e-certificate and as well as the slideshow. We have two so far. Okay, like I said, we'll be sending the feedback form link to your email as well after this.